Hey guys, are you looking for an alternative flooring that's not life-proof or any type of vinyl plank? Well, did you know that Pergo makes a water-resistant laminate? That's right, and we're going to be installing it today. So if that's something you're looking for, you're not going to want to miss this. Let's go. Hey, what's up DIY Nation? Welcome back to UFloor, the channel bringing you tips and tricks to help you with your next flooring project. We have installed a lot of LifeProof. However, in the comments I've been seeing some complaints about the LifeProof, and LifeProof is not always the ideal floor for everyone. So if you're out there looking for an alternative to LVP and you're wanting something that's waterproof as well, Pergo Outlast makes a water resistant product. We've installed quite a bit of this stuff over the past couple of years, so we've come to know all the tricks and tips or any issues that may come up in the install. Today we're going to be going over how to start the first row, how to click the stuff in, how to do the main body of it, how to cut around some corners, and how we seal the perimeter at the end. That's the most important part, so stick around to the end because you're not going to want to miss that. Alright guys, let's go.
The first thing you do before you pull any flooring out, pull your moisture meter out and check for moisture. As with all wood and laminate flooring, the moisture needs to be under 12%, and the difference between the material and subfloor shouldn't be more than 4 to 5%. Installing flooring on high moisture will cause the flooring to soak up the moisture from the bottom. This will cause cupping, expansion, and peaking at the end joints. Trust me, you don't want that. To ensure your flooring will be acclimated to the proper temperature, you should stack it in the room you'll be installing in, preferably 48 to 72 hours prior to installation. Now to get started, this carpet has got to go. Trying to remove this whole room in one piece would be exhausting. So as you've seen in other videos, it's easier to handle and less likely to scratch the walls if you cut them up in 3 to 4 foot rolls. Once they are rolled, I cut a strip about 1.5 inches wide, 3/4 of the way down. Then I cut a small slit on both sides. I just recently started cutting the layer underneath the right side. It really helps to pull the rolls tight. Then just wrap it around. I like to wrap twice, but once will work. Then stick it through the loop and pull. One handle installed. Now if you just grab this pad and start pulling, it's going to rip into pieces. So it's a good idea to run a scraper down the seam to remove all the staples before lifting. Cut a small piece of pad about 4 foot wide off the end and set it to the side for later. Now if you just happen to have a shingle shovel in your arsenal of tools, they really make short work of removing the tack strip. But if you don't, a pry bar and a hammer will work just fine. Just be sure to put the claws directly under the nails so it comes out in one piece instead of in lots of tiny pieces. Remember that scrap piece we set aside? Well, you could put all your tack strip in one side and roll it up to be hauled away with the carpet. Believe me, if you've ever been bitten by this stuff, you'll appreciate this tip. Now that all the pad is removed, you can finish scraping all the staples and drywall clumps. And if any nails are sticking up, pound those down now. And now's the time to install screws in the joists to eliminate any squeaks. With all that out of the way, take your straight edge and check your floor for flatness. Any dips or humps bigger than 1/8 inch and 10 feet need to be addressed. With our floor 100% prepped, we can start laying out our boxes.
Alright guys, so we're fixing to get started laying the first row, but I wanted to show you something right quick. You're going to need some kind of a spacer. It doesn't matter what you use. They sell spacers in the store, but in the old days I used to just cut up pieces of laminate if that's what you have, as long as it's about 1/4 inch. But anyway, these are top mount spacers. This is the style I've used because, and these are my favorite because you can use these for many purposes. This is 1/4 inch, this is 1/2 inch, this is 3/4 inch, and then this way is 1 inch. So you can use it for transitions or for whatever if you're trying to space. And if you need to go 1.25 inch for those special transitions, you can click 2 of them together like that and still achieve your 1.25 inch. But anyway, these right here are not like the wedges that slip up underneath the baseboard and they're a pain. You can't really get a true 1/4 inch because your floor keeps moving. But these are very handy when you're trying to connect that second row into the first row. But first of all, we want to go ahead and cut our starter pieces, and all those starter pieces need to be about 6 to 8 inches apart as far as width goes. So I just go ahead and stick the boards into my cutter and cut them. There's many ways you can cut laminate. We'll go over those in just a second.
There's very many different ways for cutting laminate or engineered wood. The method we use is this laminate cutter that we bought off Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. You can also use a table saw or a circular saw. A jigsaw will work just fine. Either one of these tools will be perfect for the job.
All right, there's two things I want to mention when it comes to getting started. First of all, you want to make sure that your starters are staggered randomly. We don't want to make a stair step where we have a long one, then a shorter one, then a shorter one, then a shorter one. The method me and my wife tend to use is big board, little board, big board, little board, and that ends up staggering it beautifully. You don't want to do a stair step and you don't want to do H patterns, unless that is a pattern that you're actually going for. And the second thing I wanted to mention is this stuff can be difficult to click the second row into the first one, so I would definitely suggest pulling your rows off of the wall about 2 or 3 board widths and sticking 2 or 3 rows together and then pushing it up against the wall and dropping your spacers in. That'll make life a whole lot easier on you. All right, so let's get started. What I like to do first is get my one that's about a half size and click that into a full one, and then take a full one and click those two together. This is what I'm talking about. So this is the one that's closest to about half size. I'm gonna start with it, and I'm just gonna click it into a full board here. All right, there they go. Those two are together. Now I want to take my full board and put it in here. So you see what I've done? I've got a short one, and then I'll do a long one, and then I'll do a short one. And really, it's up to you however you want to stagger them. You're the artist. Now, even though it's pulled off the wall, I still want to make sure I keep them flush on this side because it'll be up against the wall that way. It's a good idea to open your boxes, several boxes at once, and then spread them out all over instead of just taking one box and stacking it in there. Sometimes they're made at a different time, so they may have a different pattern than some of the other ones, so it really makes it look random. All right guys, as you can see, we staggered these. We have a small one, and then we have a big one, then a small one, then a big one, and then a small one. So that'll set it up for the way the floor is going to be laid out. The small, big thing, it's relative to the board that is behind it or in front of it. Sometimes laminate or engineered wood will come in multiple lengths, and when that happens, sometimes you can't help it. You're going to have to put an H pattern, or you're going to have to put one that looks like it's in a stair step, unless you take certain sections of the floor apart and go back to try to make it work. But for the most part, it should work out okay when you're staggering it this way. We'll be flying then. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that this right here is probably gonna be the most difficult part when it comes to installing the Pergo Outlast. Luckily, it's at the beginning of the install, so you won't have to worry about it the whole time. And that is clicking the second board into the starter piece on the second row. So you have to click in on the end, and you also have to click in on the long side. This is the way they suggest to do it, and that's put the end in and tip it up at a 45 degree, and then snatch it in and finish it off. Here we go. All right, again, so we're off the wall to make it a little bit easier. And you could probably even go a little bit more if you need to. But anyway, I'm tiny. You take the end, you want to stick it in right here, just like this. Now, wiggling it up and down is something that I do. See, when you stick it in like this, it's very, very tight. But if you lay it down, see how there's a crack? So you want to kind of make sure when you lift it up, it stays tight before you let it down. And then another trick we do is we just take our mallet and we kind of, that way we make it tight, make sure it's tight. Now once you get going, you can do this little snatch method. It might not be easy starting off with, so you want to kind of tip it up at a little bit. Now we'll warn you, down at that end, it's probably going to come out almost every single time. And you'll just have to smack it back in over there and work your way back this way. But anyway, we'll just close this up. And that's a rubber mallet. If you guys want, you can use a tapping block, but I must stress, you cannot beat this stuff with a tapping block or you'll destroy your front edges here. Remember, it's a tapping block, not a beater block. So we put our block there and we just tap it. And you'll notice that as we tap it, when it falls into the cracks, it's up at an angle like this, but as we tap it, it lays right down. There you go. And then it's down. It's pretty much how it's gonna go for the rest of the time. All right, when you get to the end, what you wanna do is you wanna turn your board around backwards. See how Kelly's got it? And she's marking it right there and putting an X on this side, indicating that's the side we don't need. Also, make sure you're all the way pushed up against the wall before you do that, because if you're not, your piece is gonna be wrong. And that's a perfect fit. Now I wanna mention one other thing. The piece that we cut off, as you'll notice, it has all the parts that we need for a starter. So that will go down here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the next one, but we can use it on this side. All right guys, all the boards are pretty much gonna go together in that manner. I'll go ahead and speed things up and put this in hyper speed. You guys just follow along and enjoy the music. Alright, so here, I'll cut this part off right here, okay?
Installing these last rows up against the wall can be a little bit tedious and a little challenging. The best method I've found is to use a pry bar. It's not always the best way to go, but it's the only way I've found that works. If you guys have another way of doing the last row, let me know. I'm always open for tips. Now if you don't have a tapping block, or even if you do, I'm not gonna lie, these homemade tapping blocks are the best. Right here, it's just a piece of scrap that I've cut off the back and I've cut to width. Once you install the planks in, you just take the tongue and slip it into the groove on the end and tap it in. Then on the long side, same thing. Start on one end and then slide your piece down, and as you tap it, the plank will fall, just like with the other tapping block. It's just that easy. Well guys, we made it to the last row. I tell you, this scrap piece of wood scribing thing is one of the best tricks I've learned. I used to struggle with trying to use a tape measure all the way down. Using the scrap board makes for a perfect fit, and it also gives you the perfect expansion gap. And again with this pry bar method, I tell you, sometimes I do use a pull bar and a hammer. It'll make the laminate squeeze together tight. It doesn't always make it lay down flat. That's the part I struggle with. So prying in and then pounding down with the edges is the only way I can get it to go in and then lay down flat. Again, if any of you pros out there have any tips that you could lend, I'd sure like to hear them. I love learning new hacks that makes a difficult situation easy. Laminates that are advertised as waterproof are referring to the top layer. They can take a spill for about 24 hours. But if any liquid gets behind or under the laminate, it can sit. This can cause mold and moisture issues later on. So to truly make this waterproof, they recommend putting this 3/8 rolled foam into all the expansion gaps and then sealing the perimeter with 100% silicone. Not doing this could void your warranty. I'll leave a link for the installation instructions in the description. Next, you just push the cord around into the silicone and fire some brad nails into the baseboard.
All right guys, Kelly's back here wrapping up the rest of the quarter round. I think we're about done for the day. It's getting a little bit dark outside, so I'll make sure I get home to the kids. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed today's video or brought you some value, either for the purposes of entertainment or for learning something, go ahead and let the YouTube algorithm know by smashing that like button. And if you guys like seeing videos like this, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell so YouTube will notify you when I put out videos like this. And I know we went a little bit fast today, so if you guys have any questions concerning Pergo Outlast, leave those in the comments. I try to read all the comments and answer as many questions as possible. And remember, if I don't know the answer, I'll find it. Okay, I think that's it for this one. Thanks again for watching, you guys. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Peace.